Okay, so today there's going to be an awful lot of writing, so you're going to be hitting pause quite a bit. We're going to go over the new transformation that is reflections, and this is in your book, so if you have your book handy, you can also copy it down from there. But we're going to start with the meaning of the word reflection. So when you look at a mountain by a lake, you can see the reflection or mirror image of the mountain lake. So what we're going to do today is we're going to look at mirror images of geometric figures. So our Common Core standard is 8G1. We're going to identify reflections, reflect figures over the x-axis and the y-axis in our coordinate planes. So we're going to start with the basics and then move on from there. So your objective today will be to identify and reflect figures in the x-axis and y-axis of the coordinate plane. So go ahead and push pause, write that down, and when you're ready, we'll continue. All right, hopefully you have that written down. Let's go ahead and go on here. So this is the key idea that I do want you to write and copy down. So the words in algebraic expression of reflections in the coordinate plane. So the definition in words is to reflect a figure in the x-axis. Take the opposite of the y-coordinate to reflect a figure in the y-axis. You're going to take the opposite of the x-coordinate. Just write that down, and in the algebraic expression, x-axis, xy, x, negative y, reflection y, x-axis, y-axis, xy, negative x equals y. These definitions will mean more in a little bit. So just go ahead and copy the coordinate plane. This is our original. When we reflect it across the y-axis, we get our prime here. When we reflect it across the x-axis, we get this figure here. Push pause as you need to, and we'll start up again in a few minutes, seconds, whatever. Okay, so figure A. If let's say this was on a coordinate plane, what would you say that this is reflecting across? Would it reflect across the y-axis, or is it reflecting across the x-axis? Since the line that it's reflecting across, so this is called your line of reflection, so you're going to copy this in a sec and label it as line of reflection. Since it is horizontal, it is going to be an x. X is equal to, this is your x-axis. Here your vertical line of reflection, again another line of reflection, vertical. This will be, but actually, let me take that back. Erase it. So A is definitely a reflection. If you flip this over, or if you were to have this as a piece of paper and fold it in half right on that line of reflection, they would fit perfectly as a mirror image. But here, let's look at this. We've done one other type of transformation. That would be a translation. So a translation, remember the word is slide, right? So here, this is a flip when we're talking about reflections. And this transformation is going to be a translation, which is slide. In both of these instances, the original does not change its shape or its size, so they are still congruent. This transformation is a translation. Our key word is slide. So we just took this shape and slid it over this way. So reflection, we use the word flip. Translation, we use the word slide. Make sure you have that information copied down. When you're ready, push play. All right, So you're going to have to copy down. I should have given you some grids, but I didn't. I apologize. Tomorrow I'll get you some. So we're going to graph some reflections. So go ahead and push pause. Copy these as best as you can on your notebook, and then we're going to work on them. So take a few minutes to copy both of these down into your notebook. So we're going to have to do about, let me see, 9 graphs that you're going to have to copy down. So if you happen to have graph paper, this would be a good time to bring it out, and then you could just glue the graph paper into your notebook. It would just be way easier for you to use graph paper in your notebook than to try and make these graphs in your notebook. All right, so here we go. So hopefully you have this copied down, and we're just our line of reflection. So if you have a highlighter, that would be great. Actually, do I want to start here? No, I want to start here. Sorry. I switched it. My bad. So if you have a highlighter, this would be great. So we know that the y-axis is this thing here. So I'm going to highlight this carefully. I don't want to go too crazy. I want to make sure that I'm highlighting just, oops, this line. This is terrible. Let's see if I can do it neater. Maybe if I make this thinner. There we go. So this is my y-axis, which is what I'm going to reflect across. And I'm looking for my point. And here's my point F. So what I want to do is I want to count in the direction of that line of reflection. So I'm going to count 1, 2, 3. So it took me 3 moves to get here. So I'm going to keep counting in that same direction, that same number. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to give me my reflected image. So if I folded this graph in half on my line of reflection, they would be at the same spot. Okay? So this is my y-axis. So when you do your work tomorrow, it would be beneficial for you if you went through your paper and looked for anything that said y-axis and then highlighted it. Now this one says x-axis, so this is the y. This is going to be my x. So take your highlighter and highlight that line. Oops. Okay. So here's my point. I'm going to count how many spaces it takes for me to get to that highlighter. So I'm going to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then I'm going to count on the other side the same number. Up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And that becomes my reflected image. Make sure yours look like mine. And then we're going to go on to the next page in a sec. Okay, so once again, these x and y axis, so I'm going to take my highlighter and I'm going to decide. This says x, so I'm going to find my x. And I'm going to, oh Lord, keep doing that. Oopsie. I'm going to highlight my axis. Since I'm doing that and I have my highlighter handy, I'm going to look at this one has x or y. That's x. That means I'm going to be highlighting this axis here. Oops, that's messy. Let's get it straight. So here, having a straight edge is going to be super important, and I recommend highly that you have one tomorrow. Oops. Come on. That's not working. That's better. There we go. Okay, so this time, instead of just a point that we're reflecting the entire shape. And in this case, it's a triangle. So from T to my T prime, I want to count up 1, and that'll get me to my line of reflection. So I continue up 1 again. From U, I go up 1, 2, 3, and then I count up again. 1, 2, 3. That's my U prime. For R, I want to count up 1, 2, 3, 4, and then up 4 again. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that gives me my new figure. Let's just draw some lines to connect them. Here, here, and there. Okay, go ahead and do number 9 on your own. I'll check it tomorrow in class, if you remind me. So here's a different type, and I'm going to use a T-chart to help you guys solve this. And a T-chart is just a way of writing my ordered pairs visually simple. Okay, so it says x is equal to -2. So I know that every time I'm plotting these ordered pairs, every x is going to be -2. So I'm going to put 3 of them down there. And when I know it looks like this, I'm going to use 3 simple numbers that make it easy for me to find a line that I'm going to draw as my line of reflection. I like to keep it simple and use 1, 0, and -1. And then I'm going to plot these ordered pairs. So I start at my point of origin. I'm going to go left 2 for -2, and then y is going to be 1. So I'm going to go up 1. Go to my next one, -2, and then x is going to be 0. There's my next point. -2, -1, left 2, down 1. And now what I have is a clean line of reflection. Take my highlighter. And now I have a line of reflection that isn't my y-axis. It's not my x-axis. It's x is equal to -2. So here's my V. I'm going to count right to my line of reflection 1 space, and then continue 1 space again. And there's my V prime. Making the T-chart will make this so much easier for you every time. So I'd like to see a T-chart on your homework, classwork, when you do it tomorrow. Make sure you have this copied down and push play when you're ready to continue. A couple more examples. Here I'm going to need a couple of T-charts because it's not a y-axis or x-axis. So I'm going to make my T-charts here, x and y. While I'm at it, I'll do this one too. You guys can also. So this tells me that x is always going to equal -1. So I'm just going to write -1, -1, -1. I'm going to use my 3 numbers that make it really simple for me to find a clean line. 1, 0, -1. And I'm going to graph them. From my point of origin, x is -1, y is going to be 1. Back to my point of origin, x is -1, y is 0. Back to my point of origin, x is -1, y is -1. And that gives me a nice clean point of reflection here. So this line of reflection is x is equal to -1. So here's something to pay really close attention to. If you look at this R, it's on the opposite side of the line of reflection than your A and J. So you always have to count towards that line of reflection. And that means that sometimes you're going to cross. So if we start at R, we're going to go left to my line of reflection 1 space, and then I'm going to go left again 1 more space, and that's going to give me my R prime. But since A and J are on the opposite side of R, we're going to count to the right 2 spaces for A and then 2 more spaces for my reflection, and that'll be A prime. J, I'm going to count 1 space to the right and then again 1 more space to the right for my J prime. Then I use my lines, my straight edge, to connect them so I have a nice clean triangle that is reflected. Kind of looks like a tuxedo.
Logan E.
Alright, so I'm going to do one more. Y equals 1. So this time my y's are all going to be 1. So I can say 1, 1, 1. I'm going to use my same 3 numbers that make it easy for me to create a line. 1, 0, and -1, and then I plot them. So from my point of origin, x is 1 and y is 1. From my point of origin, x is 0 and y is 1. Back to my point of origin, x is -1 and y is 1. And that gives me a nice line of reflection. Which is going to reflect this way. And again, I have one on either side of that reflection line, so I'm just going to change direction when I'm counting. So E, I'm going to count up 1 and up 1 more. Oops, let's get that blue pen out. So that'll be E prime. T, I'm going to count down 2 and then down 2 more. Q, I'm going to go down 1 and then down 1 more. And then connect my points. Make sure you have something that looks pretty similar in your notes. And we're going to do, I'm actually going to just have you copy down the last one. Your pick, copy it down and reflect it, and then we'll check it tomorrow.